What's up, storytellers? I'm Garlic here, and today we're going to talk about video case studies, how to make them. I like to use the word video case stories. If you've been watching this whole series, you know that we don't use the word testimonials, we use video case story. We're going to get back into that and some of the details of making super powerful ones right after this. So let's talk about creating video case studies that work, aka video case stories. And that's the number one thing, is we want to tell stories. What's the difference between that and a testimonial? We talked about before, but really brief. Testimonial is generally going to be about you. When you ask someone for a testimonial, they're going to talk about you. Like, they're like, Ian's great, Ian's awesome. I'm like, that's not, you don't care. You don't care. But you tell a story about how someone's life was transformed by your services. Then people are going to engage in it. They're going to watch it. I just was talking to someone the other day, that sat down and watched those stories. Even if you're not going to hire that person, a great story you will sit down and watch. And not only will you watch it, you will remember it, you will feel it. It develops empathy. We've gotten a lot into the science of empathy. When someone's feeling empathy, they make decision. Video case stories all day long. Literally, if all you did was make video case stories for marketing, you probably would still have an awesome business if you used them the right way, which we're going to talk about. So let's talk a little bit about what goes into a great video case study that works, aka video case story. A lot of times when we see a video case study, it's one scene, right? And maybe they'll talk about a business and what the results were and what you did for them, but it's not a story. So the scene and the story is actually in three parts. The first part's connect. And then the second part is conflict. And the third part is conclusion. The 3 C's of stories. The 3-part story, the 3-act story is classic. Any film, that you can get deeper into each of these elements, but this is what happens. We have the exposition and then the conflict and the conclusion. But this is how I want you to think of it as the 3 C's. Connect, conflict, conclusion. What happened at the end? We usually go straight to this one, right? We're like, oh, they got this result. We want to know a great story, what connects us with the person and then tells us about what their problem was, right? So when we're talking about connection, we are talking about, who they are and what elements are like the viewer. And that's where you have your ideal client, because we want to get more of that. If you haven't watched the planning session, make sure to go watch the planning session. We get deep into this because this is super important. We want to know who you want as your ideal clients, because you want to attract more of those people. And what are the commonalities for them? It might be geography, it might be age. A lot of times that connection is situational. I was doing this. I was driving down the street like I do every day to work. Or I just built my business to X amount and now I was stuck. Whatever that connection point is for your ideal client, that connection point can be a situation in which becomes the conflict, right? So we want to connect and say, hey, this person's like me, or I get this person, I feel for this person. And then we get into the conflict, right? What's going on? What's going on in that conflict? What's making the pain? And really that pain is what's going to make people pay attention. Conflict always draws attention. We look at great shows like reality shows, and they're not really great, but really powerful reality shows. I love The Prophet, right? I love Shark Tank. If you watch any of those shows, they're always leading with the conflict. Oh, here's the problem. They always go to cuts to commercial with the conflict. It draws attention. Same reason people rubberneck. We are drawn to attention. That got your attention, right? It's something, boom, it's conflict. If you hear bang, you're going to look. It's in our human nature. So conflict's really we got them in the connection. Now we're going to draw the conflict. We want to get that emotion out in the conflict. And we really want to dive deep into the conflict. It's not only do we want to know what conflicts occurred, there's usually multiple conflicts along the way. And this is why it's important to go back to that planning session of knowing where you're going to use this to know which conflict to focus on. And then we get into the conclusion, right? The conclusion is what the result was. Now, the result should be what they feel. The conflict really needs to be emotional, but so does the conclusion. What's the sense of relief and where they are and how they got there. And you'll talk about what you did to get them from conflict to conclusion. So we want to talk in depth about that. And sometimes it's even better to have two people in that case story. But also in the conclusion is a transformation. How did they transform, right? How did this person transform in the conclusion? And what I want to know is, how did their lives transform? How did their business transform? And then if you can, this is why it's good to even have longer term case stories, is, down the road, what is the further transformation? But this is the big deal. We want to have a transformation in there. Once we do that, once we know this person, what's up next? We want to develop the questions, which we'll talk about those questions in the next video. But we're going to develop questions to get these stories out. We're going to talk about how to interview really well, because the other thing we want along the way are moments and emotions. Any great movie maker, any great storyteller will tell you that's what drives a great story. So now we've moved from having a video case study to a video case story. We're not even in testimonial land anymore. We're engaging people. And this is super, super important. When we do this, when we tell a story in this way, a video case story, this is going to transform how people pay attention. It's going to engage them at such a whole nother level. They're going to watch the whole video. You're lucky if you get 10% view times on most of your videos. You're going to get people watching 5, 6, 7, 8-minute videos if they're done in a great storytelling fashion. So in the next video, we're going to talk about how to craft those questions, what questions to ask in a video case story. We're going to call it testimonial for the SEO reasons, but it's really a video case story. We're going to talk about that in the next video. But if you haven't, subscribe down below, because we're going to be putting out a lot more of these videos. Make sure also to hit that notification button on YouTube and comment. What are your questions about the storytelling arc? What are your questions about this? And make sure to watch the rest of the videos. So next up, we're going to talk about getting those questions.